Gentleman from Texas.
California. I love this conversation. Fiscal sanity with a $1.5 trillion budget deficit. Government has increased spending every year through this recession when businesses and the private sector have had to reduce spending. Husbands and wives sit at home determining how they're going to feed their families, pay their rents, pay the mortgage for the next month, and manage their finances through the next year. And we say, what impact will these cuts have on the federal government? Woe is us. If you look at the states and counties and cities, public employee retirement is bankrupting this country. And we're more concerned about how these impacts might impact the federal government, these cuts might, is a ridiculous argument. We need to be competitive globally. And for us to do that, we have to stop mandating the private sector. We've got to let the business community know and understand that we're not going to continue to mandate them tomorrow and steal the money from them tomorrow to make us be able to do what we want to do today. We're trying to compete with India and China. They've got great ideas. They're going to grow jobs in their country. And we've got EPA closing down the harbor in Long Beach and LA, and the Mexicans building one in Mexico because regulation in California is driving them out of California. And we worry about what these impacts will have on the federal government. We need to start saying, what can we do to grow the economy? And just based on a basic money multiplier, every time we take a dollar out of the private sector, that's going to impact the growth of this economy. We cannot continue to take from the government and think we're creating jobs. No, we're hiring government employees. And what are we producing in the economy? More paperwork. And you ask businesses, why are you not expanding? Because bureaucrats in local, state, federal agencies are mandating us to a degree, putting us through a process that's so protracted, we don't know what to do. I got a call from a dairy 2 weeks ago. They use a product on their floor that says, if you use a product, just notify everybody. You can use up to 10 pounds if you want to without any notification. You can use 500 pounds if you want to and just notify everybody. They use 30 pounds. It didn't impact police fire, but they forgot to notify one agency. So they were fined by EPA $182,000 because they forgot to send a letter. Now, what does that do to grow the economy? Nothing. And some of our witnesses today have talked about reducing spending, controlling regulation, reducing regulatory uncertainty. Basically, Dodd-Frank creates a tremendous amount of that. Reducing the size of the federal balance sheet and keeping inflation in check. Those are great. None of that has to do with the impact on the federal government because we don't tax enough. But what we're doing, based on the testimony I've heard today, is ruining this economy. We cannot continue to spend money we don't have, and then the President gives a speech, well, the top 2% are just going to have to pay more of their fair share. Look at how much they're paying. And every time we take more of their fair share, we hurt jobs in this country, because those are the people providing the jobs. So if we're going to be globally competitive, we need to make sure regulation's in check and not burdening the American companies that have to compete with China and India. Now, we say China, you can't even own property in China. If you want to build a building, the government's going to own your property. You're going to build a building, they're going to be joint venture partners with you. I've had 3 people from my community that had been held in China and had their passports taken from them because they owed a business in China some money. And it was a contractual dispute, did not go to court, but the Chinese government said, until you pay the money, you're not leaving our country. Now, that's a great democracy, and we're having to compete with them. They're also fixing their currency based on ours, so we cannot be competitive. We need to change the direction of this country. We need to stop looking to get into people's pockets and start protecting the American people. We need to say we are not going to regulate you to death. We are not going to tax you to death. We're going to create an environment that we cannot guarantee success, but you have an opportunity to succeed. And we're doing quite the opposite. So would you like to answer my question? I think we're headed the wrong direction. I think if we keep talking the way we've talked in the last 2 years, this country's in dire straits. We're going to be in real trouble. We need to start talking from the perspective of the American out there who knows what they're facing in the economy. They're losing their jobs. The ones that have lost it are having to compete with 8 million illegals here that have taken their jobs. And we're talking in a presidential speech of making everybody legalized in this country and not protecting the American worker. We need to be on this side of the American workers. People who are in this country just trying to survive, losing their homes. We need to change the direction of this government and make it responsive to them. This is supposed to be a democracy of laws established by the people to govern themselves. And we have become so heavy-handed, that does not work anymore. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?